G'day viewers, Jason, Joondalup Electrical Services. So I've been a bit quiet lately. I haven't put anything up for about a week, I don't think. I've been busy on the tools, and I've also been busy emailing people that make rules and know better than me about a video that I put up the other week, which I quickly pulled down because it became apparent to me that I had actually put some incorrect information on there. So that video was in regards to installing a new hybrid inverter where there is an existing solar system. So I'll give you an example. You've got an existing solar system and you want to put a battery on. I believe a lot of people are getting told that they need to pull their whole system off and start again, which I said in the video was incorrect. And some people commented in the comments that were clearly from the industry and stated that that was incorrect. And so I pulled the video down. There's also the RCDs thing, which I'm going to get to as well, but I'll focus on the retrofitting of batteries to an existing solar system. So I pulled that video down because I wanted to get the correct information. So the requirements are that if you're adding, and I was right on this one in the video, the RCDs one I was wrong, but I'll explain that in a minute. Retrofitting a solar system to a home with an existing solar system, you can do that, and you can remove the existing inverter and put on a multi-mode inverter, also known as a hybrid inverter. That is okay, and you can do that using the existing solar system, and then you can add more solar to it either at the same time or at a later stage. But there are conditions to that, as I mentioned in the other video, that the existing solar system must be compliant with the requirements at the time. And those that have been in the industry would know that we don't get it so much now, but back, rewind 3 years ago and longer, we constantly had changes, so it was really quite difficult to keep up. But this document I've got here clarifies what you can and can't do, and it also goes into explaining repairs and alterations on what's required. So if you're fitting a solar system to an existing system, the existing PV array, so PV is photovoltaic, which is your solar panels. So your existing PV system, solar system, must be compliant with the requirements at the time it was installed, whether that was last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, and it must be safe. So you do need someone to come out and do a site inspection. Obviously it's going to have to be a solar person to jump up on the roof and check everything. And possibly do a few little electrical checks as well, have a look in the roof and on the roof and that sort of thing. If it's all safe and it's compliant, then it can absolutely be reused, which is great, because what's the point of throwing those solar panels in the bin or landfill or whatever may happen to them, repurposed, that's fine. But it makes sense to reuse them where you can. Now, the only reason why you wouldn't reuse them is if they're taking up valuable roof space. A lot of the older solar panels, they were quite low power for the square meterage they took up. So that could warrant removing them and putting in newer, more powerful ones if they're taking up valuable roof space that you need. But otherwise, they can stay up there and be reused. So I'll read the key clause from this document. This is from the Department of Local Government Industry Regulation and Safety, and the title is Existing PV Array Compliance Requirements when Installing Battery Energy Storage Systems, BESS. So if you hear anyone in the industry referring to batteries and stuff as BESS, B-E-S-S, Battery Energy Storage System, and this is repairs versus alterations. And so I'll show you the document, that's it there. And the key clause is this one here. Scenario, inverter replacement. The replacement of a PV inverter with one that has multi-mode capability to facilitate the installation of a BESS that is compatible with the existing PV array and its wiring may not automatically initiate the replacement of the PV array. However, the PV array installation needs to be verified that it is safe and compatible with the new inverter by performing a visual inspection of the installation in accordance with AS NZS 5033 clause 4.7.2 and testing the installation in accordance with AS NZS 5033 clause 4.7.3. And then it goes on to give you a bit of a guide. I'll try and remember to put a link to this document in the description. So again, the description is below the screen where you're seeing me right now. You'll see all the text below, and then you'll see description. If you click on that, that'll open the description, and I'll try and put in a link to this, but you can probably find it on the Building and Energy website. Anyway, I'm just trying to think where I actually found it. So there you go, guys. If you're retrofitting a new battery system using a new inverter, and you're going to take the old inverter off the wall and reuse the existing PV array and install more solar and claim the subsidy for the new solar panels, you can absolutely do it. All right, there's no problem with that. I think the reason a lot of people are just pulling them off and starting again is because, for the most part, it's salespeople that are doing the selling, and you know, they don't know this stuff. I'm not trying to rag on salespeople, but typically they're not the ones doing the training and that sort of thing. It's not their ass in a sling if things aren't done to standard. It's the installer. So just keep that in mind, guys. If you're an installer, just remember you're signing off on the design and the installation to claim the STCs on these systems. So the retailer has no skin in the game whatsoever. It's all on you. So if there's a non-compliance issue, it's going to come back on you, and so you need to bear that in mind. So I think a lot of the time that's why this happens, is because the salespeople don't necessarily know any better, and if they have to go to site, they don't really know what they're looking for anyway. They're just going to sell you a new solar system package, and it's easier just to rip the whole fucking thing off and start again. So that's that. Okay, so the second part to that video was I touched on the subject of people saying that you need to replace your entire switchboard, upgrade the switchboard because you didn't have the right RCDs. So we've got two different types of RCDs that are in question here. We've got the type AC RCDs, which have been around for a long time, and they now need to be replaced with a type A RCD. Now, I'll explain the difference. A type AC RCD is only detecting fault currents in AC, so alternating current, which is the regular power that comes into your house. A type A RCD will pick up fault currents on AC and DC. So as things have changed, our houses have become way more complex with electronic appliances and components, including batteries. And one thing I didn't get about this type A RCD requirement is it applies to anything, not just a battery system, that can put a DC fault current through your electrical installation. So when I say electrical installation, I mean the entire wiring of your home, and potentially not trip the RCD if it's a type AC, but it's a DC fault, and present a electrical hazard where someone could get hurt. So it's not just batteries that can present this problem. It can be any DC source of electricity in your house. So it can be a solar power system. It can be that we get a lot of variable speed motors for pool pumps now, which are DC. It can be battery chargers. It can be UPS power supplies for computers. It can be a whole heap of different things. Basically anything that can put a DC fault back through the line, this type A RCD is designed to pick up any faults from them. So since 2023, I think it was, we've had to use type A RCDs. But now what they're saying is when we install a battery system, if there are any type AC RCDs that are being fed from the backup supply on that battery, then they must be upgraded to type A. So I was confused on it. People commented, which I appreciate, so I stopped the video, I pulled it down, and I looked into it a bit further. I made multiple phone calls to inspectors and electrical inspectors. I didn't always get through. I did get through on one occasion, and to be honest, when I hung up the phone, I was no clearer on what was required than when I rang up. A lot of the times with these regulations, they can be subjective, and it can be, you know, it's like the bollards for battery systems. One inspector might turn up and say, oh, that bollard, you know, you need 2 bollards, whereas another inspector might turn up and say, oh, you know, you would have got away with 1 bollard, or it's up on the wall, you don't need a bollard at all. So some of the rules are subjective, but this one's not. It's fairly black and white. So after that phone call, I was no clearer on what was required, so I pushed for a bit more because I really wanted to do this video and give accurate information. Now, this information is from a building and energy senior electrical inspector for Western Australia. Okay. Other local states and that sort of thing might have their own rules on top of the basic standards, as is sometimes the case. So if you're unsure, I would find out for yourself, or if you're unsure, just go to the higher mark and replace them all anyway. So I'll read this to you and give it to you in black and white. So my email to, and this took quite a while to get the answer, so I hope you guys appreciate this because I put in a fair bit of effort to get these answers. Hi guys, can I please get some clarification on when installing a BESS? Do I need to upgrade existing RCDs to type A if no changes or modifications have been made to the final subcircuits in the switchboard, and all final subcircuits already have RCDs as required but are type AC? I appreciate the best practice is to change them to type A, but I can't find anything specifying they must be changed if existing RCDs are all if existing subcircuits are all protected and are type AC. This is a whole home backup scenario, so no modification to this distribution board has been made. Kind regards, Jason Taylor. Okay, so this was the reply. Hi Jason, AS NZS 3000 2018 clause 1.9.3 and 2.6.2.2.2, the installation of a BESS. Even in a whole home backup scenario is considered an alteration to the electrical installation. Therefore, any final subcircuit supplied by the BESS must be protected by type A RCDs. Okay. While existing type AC RCDs may remain if untouched, any circuit now supplied by the BESS must comply with current standards. Okay, so I was half right, half wrong, and some of the people commenting were also half right, half wrong. Doesn't fucking matter who's right or wrong as long as we all go to the correct standards and we're all on the same page and we're all quoting for the same level of electrical work. So if you had some battery systems don't do home backup at all. Some might have enough backup capacity to do 1 or 2 final subcircuits, such as if you're using a single phase battery on a 3-phase home. Like I said, I always try and do whole home backup, whether it's single phase or 3-phase, it just makes sense. But many of the battery systems will have a main AC cable coming into the inverter, to the multi-mode inverter, and another one coming out which will supply your backup circuits. Now, all those backup circuits in the switchboard, here's another thing, they don't have to be removed from the switchboard and put in a different switchboard. They can remain in that switchboard, but they must be grouped and clearly labelled. Now, all those circuits supplied by a battery system, so your backup circuits, must be type A RCDs. All right. The other existing ones, if they have remained unchanged, they're in the same spot, you haven't moved them, you haven't changed anything, then they can remain type AC. Okay. So I thought it would make sense if I give you an actual real life example of what I'm talking about. So first I'll explain how to identify a type A and a type AC RCD. So if we have a look at this, now this is it's called an RCBM or an RCBO. This is a combination RCD and a circuit breaker. So this is a regular circuit breaker that protects your house wiring from catching fire due to being overloaded and getting too hot, or from short circuits. An RCD, which I don't have a straight RCD on here, but an RCD just looks basically like this. This is to protect the people in the house from earth faults. Okay, and how the RCDs work is they measure the amount of power or current going into the circuit, and then it'll have its loads, and then the amount of power going back through the RCD. So it's measuring the current coming into the circuit and the current coming back out of the circuit. As you can see there, they are a double pole device. One pole is active and one pole is neutral. Now if there's any differential between what went into the circuit and what came out, it knows there's potentially an earth leakage of, for this one is 30 milliamps, and then it will trip. That there is its fault current rating, 8 kA, and that's our tripping amount for the earth leakage. So what we're looking for is this symbol here. That one is a type AC. All right, that is the old school one. Incidentally, as I've mentioned in other videos, that's the RCM mark, which is our, can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically the mark that identifies that this electrical product is approved for use in Australia. And so that's our type A. That's a picture of our sine wave. Sorry, type C, not A, fucking hell, type AC. And then if we move to this newer one here, let's try and go in nice and close. You'll see there's that mark there. Now that is our type A RCD, or as I said before, RCBO. So that's what we're looking for, is that symbol there, not that symbol there. That one is type AC, that one is type A, and it's the type A that we want. Now this is my switchboard, these are a little bit old. I do have a Tesla Powerwall on my house, which is over there, and all this switchboard is on backup, and it was done well before May 2023 when these new requirements came into play. So just how you can identify an RCD from a regular circuit breaker is an RCD or RCBO will always have a test button. So that is a test button, that's a test button, that's a test button, that's a test button. You'll notice on these ones there is no test button. Now, all final sub-circuits now must be protected by an RCD, and you cannot have more than 3 final sub-circuits on one RCD. So there's many combinations of achieving this, but what you're going to be looking for as a consumer is these RCDs or RCBOs with that test button. Okay, and if you're in doubt whether they are RCD protected, then trip your RCDs, all the ones that you can see, and then go and see if you've got any power to any of your lights, your powers, all those other circuits, to determine whether they are actually protected by the RCD. So if you're having an installation done where you're not doing whole home backup and you're just having a few single circuits that are on the backup supply from the hybrid inverter, then those circuits must all be grouped together. They can still be on the same switchboard as I mentioned before, but they must be grouped and clearly labelled as backup circuits or emergency power supply from the battery. They can't be one here, one there, all that sort of thing. They must be grouped together and clearly labelled. Alright. So hopefully I've cleared up some questions there. Hopefully you haven't all fallen asleep with my monotone voice. And hopefully you appreciate the effort I've put in, because I wanted to know definite answers so I can be confident when I make these videos, and also to share it with you guys so that if you're a consumer, you're informed and you know what is and isn't required, in case someone's trying to pull the wool over your eyes, or in case, as I find in many of my inspections, the installer hasn't met the minimum standards when they've done the installation, which I see a lot of. So guys, if you're after a post-installation inspection, you can give me a call. Actually, don't call, text please, or email 0412866428. You can email me, jason@jeswa.com.au. I can also advise you on designs. Now, I'm indifferent, guys. If you call me out to do a design, I'm not going to try and sell you a battery system. Yes, I do supply and install batteries in many cases. I generally don't do full solar and battery supplies these days because I work alone, and I find it a little bit challenging these days. The body's not quite what it used to be. I will do them occasionally. I'll pick and choose as what ones I do, but I do them occasionally. But if you want a non-biased opinion on a solar design or battery, I can help you with that. I can do it via email and a phone call once I've got the whole job parameters and I've looked at what you're trying to do. I'll try and advise you on what is best for you, listening to what you actually want and what you expect from the battery system to make sure that you get the best result in the budget that you have, and that the battery system is going to do what you want it to do, because different batteries do different things. Some batteries can do things, but the installer doesn't do that extra thing that's required so it can do what you expected. So it's important to know these things. So I can do design consults for you, and I can do that interstate. I don't need to be present to do that. Obviously my post-installation inspections, I do need to come and see you to do that. So if you're interstate, that might have to wait till next year till I'm back over there again, traveling for motocross. But if you're in WA and you want me to come out and do a post-installation inspection, then I'm happy to come out and do that. And I'm not looking for the nitpicking little things like that fucking label's not there, it's meant to be over there. I'm looking for the things that matter, things that are going to be dangerous, things that are going to affect the performance of the system, and big things like not securing the PV array to the roof properly, and RCDs and that sort of thing that have been done properly. So if you're interested in that, you can give me a call or an email. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully you made it to the end. It's you guys that make it to the end that are the most educated and know what's happening, and hopefully have the best experience when you're buying batteries and that sort of thing. Cheers, guys.